Hi folks, John Cordisco back again. Round 12 of the 78th edition of Tata Steel Chess. It's the 78th edition. Can you imagine 78 years? Quite a tournament. One of my favorites. Anyway, this is between Fabiano Caruana from the United States is white, who's going to be playing in the candidates final this March along with my buddy Ocaro. Two guys from the United States in the finals. I got a lot of high hopes. And is black from the Netherlands, Loek VanWely, King Luke, who I met once at the World Open in 2010 in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, and got his autograph. He's an interesting character. He's a pretty funny guy. Anyway, folks, let's get to it. Caruana is white, VanWely is black. Going to be a Svenigan Sicilian. We'll just go through the opening here. A6. Pretty much standard stuff. Here comes the G4. Pretty typical in the Sicilian, where you'll see black castles on the king side and white castles on the queen side, and both sides storm their pawns and see who gets there first. The G4, H6, just to blunt some of that pawn advance. Castle's long. Bishop B7, H4. Here come the pawns. B4. Knight has to go to A4 temporarily. Queen A5, B3. Okay. They've probably seen this position hundreds of times before. Pretty standard. The Bishop B7, the last minor pieces black has developed. And Rook H3. Now that is one of the top choices of the computer as well. Knight A3. Interesting move there. Well, you see, of course, why black can't take, because the queen's in pre. Rook to C8. Pawn takes. Knight takes check. As you can see, the pawn can't take because of the rook. Knight has to take. Queen takes A4. It was a weird series of moves for the trade, but that's the way it came out. I'll tell you the truth, I wouldn't want to be white with that attack coming, but according to the computer, it's over a point advantage for white. I like black's chances here. King to B2, have to guard the knight. And D5, trying to open things up. Mainly, of course, move this pawn, but now this bishop is bearing down. The bishop C5. Queen to D7. Moves the queen right off. It's probably a decent move. Bishop takes C5 is probably, then after knight takes. G5. Pawn takes. Rook takes, bishop takes. Okay. Maybe not be as menacing on white as it was earlier, but knight has to move. And there's not many spots for this knight to go. You want to go back on G8, so he has to go hitting the pawn and F4. Now look at that poor knight. He really has nowhere to go. Yeah, he can go here. Then he has to come back. You can't even go here because the queen's in the way. He's a little cramped. Queen to C7, probably making room for his knight. Bishop takes. King takes. Now most of the pieces are gone. I do have to say, honestly, I do like white now. I think black's attacking chances on the queen side have pretty much fizzled out. Knight C5. A lot of moves here. A5 I think is the best. G6. Knight goes to F6. Interesting. What about that pawn on G6? What do you think that's worth, if anything? Then you got the queen and the rook battery coming down the D file. Same goes for black, though. I think it's about even. Computer bears that out. Tiny advantage for white. Now we're on move 26. VanWely just moved knight to F6. And I remember watching it. You can watch it on livestream.com if you punch in the tournament, Tata Steel Chess. You'll see the old rounds. He was basically on fumes, as I call it. His clock was down to basically nothing. He's practically moving on the increment, which I believe was 30 seconds. E5, forcing the knight back. Knight takes, queen takes. Now, when you're that short a time, you can mess up. F5. And this is where I think Luke in time trouble stumbles. Queen to C7, I think, is the correct move. Queen to B5. Or even move the king to E8 for that matter. He went rook to C4. And just like that, it went from a small advantage for white to almost a 3-point advantage. If he had gone queen to C7 instead, after G takes, queen takes, check, king to F1, king takes, I think black can survive this, frankly. But after rook to C4, F6, G takes, E takes, king cannot take, goes to D6. To give you an idea, if the king had taken, rook to F1 check, king, G takes, queen takes, and you lose the queen. But after king to D6, queen to H2 check, king's really getting pushed around now. It's an almost 5-point advantage. This game is over. G7, queen has to go back. To use your queen as a blockader, especially on the 8th rank, basically it's worthless. Queen to E5, bishop C8. Great move here. Stop the video and see if you can find it. B5 check. Amazing stuff. King has to go to B7 to give you an idea. If king had taken, bishop F1. It's the rook for free. Because when you move the king, bishop takes rook, pawn can't take because you lose the queen. So he has to go to B7, rook G1. Now he goes queen to B6. And he went queen, and the game is over. Rook to E4 probably was a better move. And after queen to C3, rook to C4. But it's still over. After queen, rook C7, that's what would have happened, bishop F1. The game is over. You're down a queen for a pawn. You're up a full queen. So, Caruana strikes. Keeps in the hunt for first place in the 78th edition of Tata Steel Chess 2016. Poor Luke. Well, we got one more round to go, folks. This is a 13-round tournament. It's a very long tournament. Anyway, folks, as I always say, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.